Basketball fans, welcome into Raptors today as the Toronto Raptors return to 500, the first time this year with the big win over the Miami Heat, 106-92. As always, joined by Sherm Hamilton. Jonesy, you look different.
Welcome.
Is that what we're doing?
Welcome, Randy Urban, onto the
man.
set. Quickly, before we start the show, any hot takes that we need to know about?
No, I haven't started Love is Blind
All
yet. The new
right.
one. So
Thank you for
once I
sparing
get
us.
that going, I will, have me on next week, and I'll hook you up.
I don't know if we'll hold you to that, but let's talk about what we saw last night on the floor. The boys of Raptors tonight on Raptors Today, talking Raptors brand basketball. A big win for the Toronto Raptors team on an undermanned Miami Heat squad. Of course, no Jimmy Butler, a big part of what they did. But let's talk about what you take away from last night's performance, knowing it was an all-important game to get that series advantage in the season, even though the Atlanta series might be more important. But Randy, your thoughts on what you saw on the floor last night?
Well, initially I was a little discouraged off the start, 12-2, 14-4. I was feeling like, okay, guys, you got to get this W here. You win this game, you're 2 games back of the Miami Heat. And I know that there's, just a small runway of games left, but anytime you can put pressure on the team ahead of you, and of course you got to stay on pace with Atlanta as well. So I was a little discouraged at the start, but after that first time out, it was like 2 different basketball teams, and I liked the way that the Raptors responded. And I thought, I've been a little critical in my own circle of the crowd, to be honest with you, just because I felt like they're quiet until the fourth quarter and they don't react until the Raptors team players make the crowd do something. And I know that that's fine, but if I'm playing at home and I know what the stakes are, I want my crowd fired up from the beginning.
Yep.
And so I thought the crowd got into it early in the first quarter, and I think that just helped the team just kind of shake off a little bit of rust.
Our producer, Jake LaRue, actually mentioned to me that was the first time he heard a defense chant
in the first quarter,
all season.
Yeah, and so once that got going, the team kind of got going, and I thought Scottie Barnes' play in the first quarter set the tone for the rest of the game, and he didn't really let up. So I loved all those things.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Raptors, during their homestand winning part, they've done very well in the first quarter, considering how the previous part of the season started. But to see them go down early in the first quarter wasn't something I was shocked about. Mm-hmm. It was something that I didn't want to happen, though. But they responded after that timeout. They came out and they did what they had to do. And again, I think it's a game where, Jimmy Butler, you can kind of relax a little bit. You might not be as aggressive. And I thought that throughout the middle parts of that game, and then a little bit of push in the fourth quarter by Miami, I thought the Raptors played a fairly good basketball game when you talk about defensively their activity and how aggressive they were. Multiple players having very, very good offensive nights. It was a pretty balanced approach after that initial start of the game. So there was a lot to take away that I thought was very positive in that game.
And different moments of the game, I thought a different player was more impactful, right? Of course, Pascal had a great third quarter, but I thought OG did as well. He took a couple of threes that were, I wouldn't say they were highly contested, but they weren't wide open, which I'm used to seeing him take those shots, and he made them. And I thought those were big shots because they were at moments where Miami was trying to conjure up a little bit of a run.
Yeah, tough night in the office despite the 21 points for Bam Adebayo. I think the Raptors did a great job of frustrating him and getting hands on balls when he was around. But let's talk about the big 3 from last night, and that's, of course, OG, Scottie, and Pascal. Rarely do you see big numbers from a swath of guys on this Raptors team. Guys usually pick their spots. So, Sherm, how impressive was that for you, kind of seeing that this team's kind of trending in the right direction towards the end of the season and guys are figuring out how to get their numbers offensively together?
Yeah, I thought it was good in terms of, especially I like to see OG score the basketball, and it was good to see him score. He's usually an efficient scorer too, so I like his approach. Scottie, missed a couple games and he's still kind of finding his rhythm, but he almost had a triple-double last night, which was good to see. And Pascal is continually finding ways to do what he does without taking away from the team, and that's a great thing to see. The interesting thing is usually if we're talking about scorers, we're talking about Fred VanVleet in the mix, and he wasn't in the mix. But again, when he sees what's happening, he sees who has it going, he's not going to take away from anybody to just get his numbers. So it was good to see that those 3 high-scoring games from those guys. And there's more in the tank because if Fred joins the party, when Gary Trent comes back, he's the guy who can start to fill it up as well. So there's some options and some weapons still in the holster for this team. But it was good to see those three guys go to work.
Well, and does it not feel like, as we look at those numbers, that I was looking at, obviously Jimmy Butler not being there makes a huge difference, but there's a lot of mismatches size-wise in the Raptors' favor last night. And I thought initially they were trying to take advantage of it, but couldn't really get the right mix. They were kind of thrown off. I know Scottie had Tyler Hero on him one time and scored, but there were multiple times where they didn't score. And then I felt like they settled down in playing that way, and it just looked like Miami was too small.
Well, they are a traditionally small team.
Yeah.
I mean, other than Bam Adebayo, they don't have Deadman anymore.
Yep.
Who else do they have with size?
Mm-hmm.
They'll play
Zeller,
lineups
yeah.
with Oladipo and Strus and Hero and Lowry and Gabe Vincent when they play a smaller lineup, and that to me is a problem because they don't have any size besides Bam Adebayo.
And going zone kind of hurts them on the glass.
You got to protect your size, all
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, well, we talked about a lot about offense, but right now we're going to bring Savannah Hamilton in to talk about the defense of the Toronto Raptors.
Thanks, Akil. Now a lot of credit goes to the Raptors defense as the score was 106-92, and we know how hard it is in this league, in this era, to keep a team under 100 points when the scoring average is 114.2. So technically the Raptors were under that as well, but let's talk about why that defense was so effective against the Miami Heat. Obviously, it's a physical game. It's always a battle against the Heat. We've seen the earlier series against them. It's always that tough game. But when you look at the nitty-gritty and what the Raptors were really able to do, you look at the help defense especially. That's something that I noticed right away. I looked at OG Anunoby. Of course, he's going to, get his steals, his games that oftentimes stands out. But in this game, what really stood out to me is just his rotations and being physical. And Bam Adebayo, he ended up, of course, with 21 points, but those are a tough-fought 21 points. He was 7 for 18 in those minutes as well. And so you got to give the Raptors credit there because he's a guy that could really ignite the offense in terms of just passing it out and just getting his teammates a bit more available because he's so physical and big in the paint that oftentimes makes defenses collapse. But what Coach Nurse talked about in the presser was the fact that on three-point shots, the Raptors were flying out at them. They're under control, though. And then on the drives, when they were going up for the first attempt, sometimes they block. They got a lot of blocks this game. But then also times, if they didn't get a block, they'd force a miss almost, but then they'd regather if the Heat got the rebound or just took an extra step to regather themselves to go back up again, and then they'd still contest that second attempt as well. That's what Nurse said just now in the presser, and honestly, you got to give it to the Raptors because as much as their offense, especially the three-point shot, wasn't necessarily clicking for the Raptors this game, they fought extra hard. They put that extra effort into the defensive end, so lots of credit goes to them for that tonight. Back to you, Akil.
All right, another subplot happening with this Toronto Raptors team is the play of Jeff Dowtin. He's kind of leapfrogged some of the other guards on the team, but he only has 3 games left on his 2-way contract. So, Randy, I'm curious, what role do you think this guy plays in this current playoff push, understanding the dynamics of there are other point guards on this team?
Mm-hmm. I think he just keeps playing the role he's been playing since the All-Star break and going in there and being valuable, being solid, not making mistakes, not turning the ball over, and just giving a little rest to Fred VanVleet. I think Dowtin is one of the smartest players on the team, and what I like about him is he doesn't force shots. At the same time, he wants to take the shot that's there. He's not afraid when the shot clock gets down. He makes good, aggressive moves to the hoop. He shares the ball, shoots it with confidence. Man, I don't know. I think he's the guy that just comes in now. And I think you can use Malachi Flynn as well at times, for sure. I think he can change the complexion of the game, but Dowtin is just super solid, and I love that about him.
How surprised would you be if he wasn't on this roster?
He'll be there.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got to be there, right?
That's my expectation.
Well, we'll see. But to your point about Dowtin, I've said this before on Raptors Tonight. The word that comes to mind with him is poise.
Mm-hmm.
He always has poise when he's out there. He's controlled. He's very confident. A young player that operates at the back end of a shot clock with a calmness and an ability to orchestrate a shot, that says a lot about a player's, I think, potential future in terms of being able to understand how to operate under tight quarters. But he's bigger than Malachi, so defensively he's got an advantage. He can play defense, and he's a smart player.
Mm-hmm.
He understands, and he's earned the trust of Nick Nurse, and that's impressive for a young man. So
coaches like when you don't turn the ball over.
You don't turn the ball
As a
over, and
backup point
defensively
guard.
you're not a liability.
Yeah.
And he's not a liability defensively. So I really like what he brings, and I think when you talk about having depth and quality depth, he's one of the guys that, can really provide that for
I
this
know
team.
he's at the back end of the rotation right now for this team, but all these guys, we talk about this, they're the best player on their team growing up, wherever they played, right?
He might have been the best player on the 905 team.
Yeah. So these guys are – the good thing about Dowtin is he wants to take that shot if it's available to him at the end of the clock. Like, he is not afraid. He has that mentality, and I think that's the most important thing, right? A lot of guys are used to it, but they get a little under the weather when it gets, a little rocky there. So he's not one of those guys, and I think that served him well. I noticed that when he was playing with the Lakeland Magic in the 905 season, the bubble season, he was late in the clock, wanted the ball at the end of the game, that kind of a player. And he's showing that poise right now.
Well, I think one thing, too, is he really fits the profile, the identity of that second unit group when Gary's there because, Gary's such an aggressive player offensively, and he kind of allows that to happen. Speaking of aggressive offensively and no turnovers, you guys are just mentioning that, Scottie Barnes, big game, 12 assists, no turnovers. Let's hear from Scottie Barnes right now.
Was able to run our sets and be able to execute out of them. People was in the right spots, and the reads were open every single time, so that's what we went to. It was just a simple read.
In the beginning of the game, you were able to get your scoring going a bit more. What was going on there that allowed you to do that?
I would say just trying to go early with the early post-ups, transition. So it was just me playing, and things were just coming to me.
Your shooting efficiency and shot quality are higher over the course of the season when you're playing with Siakam on the court. Why do you think that is?
He draws a lot of attention. Of course, he scores the ball really well, but he also has a high IQ to be able to pass out of the double teams when he sees them coming very early. So he draws a lot of attention, so it just creates for everybody else. So when it's 2 on the ball, it's a 4-on-3 out there, so it's easier to score.
I don't think what it does stop what I do, or vice versa. So I don't know. I don't understand the question.
His numbers tend to be higher when you are on the court alongside him. He says it's because you attract attention. Do you find that he's more open, or you have a good chemistry?
I think again he makes good cuts and things like that. And I think for me I just make the right play, or at least I try. A couple turnovers down there, but yeah, just trying to make the right play, and he seems to be in the right position, and he can also make plays. So yeah, that helps.
It felt good. Definitely feels good to get a win. Just with that second unit, we're just constantly bringing energy to the team. Just trying to keep the lead. We're getting stops on the defensive end. I think that helps our offense and helps our transition game. We're just trying to be consistent. So I'm just glad we got the win today. Just us knowing that team very well. Every time we play against them, it's always going to be a dog fight. 2 scrappy teams, energetic guys, love playing defense and love getting after it. It's always going to be a good matchup every time we play against them.
It's just going out there playing. We understand how important these last couple games are, so just going out there trying to play the right way, play to win. Just trying to get as much wins as we can, towards this stretch right here.
I know you're out a few games, but do you feel like you're kind of getting your momentum back, the feet under yourself?
That's all it's been about for me this year. Had a lot of games out, in and outs here and there. Trying to get myself, back to where I understand I could be at.
About everybody knows that he's a great defender, but how is being defended by him in practice?
He's really good. I'm learning from OG as well. He has really, really good hands. Just the way he attacks the ball on defense, some things I'm trying to, learn from him, pick up from him while I'm watching him play.
Okay, playoff time. Time to go west, young man, as we take a look at the landscape of the Western Conference. Again, another tightly packed group of players around that 4, 5, 6 seed. Interesting to see how this plays out. What is the most compelling storyline to you, Randy Urban, in the Western Conference right now?
Ooh, I want to see Memphis, Golden State have a 7-game series right off the bat. I want the first round to be explosive.
Golden State. So that's the play-in. Okay.
No, if that happens, it's not lined up for that right now. But if Memphis plays Golden State, I like that. If Phoenix plays the Clippers, I like that. I want to see Denver play Oklahoma City, and I guess Sacramento and the Lakers. Those are the teams that I want.
Golden State's threatening.
They are. I mean, Golden State down near the bottom of the playoff picture, and the Lakers at 9, probably going to end up in a playing situation. I tell you what, you think Denver, Memphis, Sacramento, I think those guys want to face those kind of teams in the first round of the playoffs?
I made a comment that I'm more scared of some of the teams in the bottom half of the Western Conference than the top.
Well, I mean, obviously, Memphis has made a lot of noise, and they're coming, but do you feel like they're there yet? No. But you know those guys in Golden State and the Lakers, they've been there, so it could be very different in a playoff situation. And the biggest wild card is we need to see what Sacramento is under the playoff lights.
Who they really are, yeah.
Yeah, they've had a great regular season. Mike Brown has done a great job with this team. They're playing great basketball, but as we know, the real season is coming, which is the playoffs, and we don't know how that group's going to react in the playoffs, and that's going to be interesting because they've been so good all season where people thought they were going to fail, including me. I thought they were going to fall out of the picture. They've been great.
You got to defend, and I don't know if they defend at a high enough level in come playoff time where every possession is a grind.
So who are you looking at?
Denver doesn't defend well either.
That's what I was going to say, really.
But they defend when they need to defend, I think. They have also the pedigree. They also have experience.
Where have you seen that they defend when they need to defend?
I've actually seen Jokic play pretty good defense down the stretch of games when he needed to. I know you guys crush Jokic in his pick and roll defense and all that kind of stuff, but he actually understands the game, and I think that he can make plays at the end of the game defensively. Against the Raptors last year, he blocked a shot right at the end. Came out of nowhere to block Scottie Barnes, I believe, at the rim. I mean, he can do it. Just doesn't do it all the time.
So you're a big believer in...
I like Denver.
Denver?
Yeah. I think they got one of the better teams.
I vehemently disagree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on the other side of the equation.
Well, we can talk about this when the playoffs are over and they're the Western Conference champions.
We'll probably be talking about this right when the second round starts.
Denver's not losing in the first round. Bad matchup for them is the Lakers, but I think that they can get by anybody else.
I think that'll make some exciting basketball. A Denver-Lakers matchup.
They got shooting, man. They got so much shooting right now. They're a way better team
than
they have been in the past.
Head and shoulders above the rest of the pack.
They're better than everybody else. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm excited to see this play out. Right now, let's check in with head coach of the Toronto Raptors, Nick Nurse.
Defense was as good as it's been for 48 minutes in a long time. That third quarter was particularly good.
Yeah, I thought, I think going into the game, the challenge was our size versus their speed and perimeter shooting. And I think that from about the midway through the first quarter on, not every time, but we really flew at guys to challenge shots. We got a piece of a couple threes. We made a couple guys reload and still landed and re-challenge. Like we did a good job of making them miss out there, and we did a pretty good job communicating. I mean, we lost them a couple times, but there's a lot of stuff happening out there, slip outs and speed and stuff to keep track of. But we did a good job of keeping track of it most of the time. And you're right. I felt like we had a lot of possessions where they were really searching for a shot, right? I mean, they'd get one, but it would be pretty tough at the end of it. So, and it felt like we created a decent number of turnovers, 16. Not bad, but a little low for us, but still a decent number, right?
See, Scottie has big fourth quarters, but not too many big first quarters.
Yeah.
What do you think about the way he started the game, and why do you think he was so successful that way?
Well, I just think that, again, the advantage we had probably at some of the wing positions was size, and I think I give our guys credit. They found some mismatches. Obviously, Miami had schemed for what they were going to do against them. We kept completing passes to the size advantage because they were coming pretty hard on the baseline traps, and then we were completing them out. To a number of different ways, guys cutting down shooters around the bend. So I just think that, maybe he got a good start there just with some inside stuff. I thought he had a really good, energetic game. He just had his head up and was moving with the ball quickly. Obviously, the 12 assists are huge. He was finding a lot of the people out of kind of like the next pass. We'd get it out of the double and it'd come to him and he'd find the next cutter a lot of times going to the rim. Very, very good job of vision with him tonight on finding guys for easy buckets, setting guys up.
All right, welcome back inside our sixth floor studio. Randy Urban's been super confident about this Nikola Jokic defense conversation, and I've been paying attention to this big man for a while, and I've got mad respect for him. I'm not going to take away his 2 MVPs, but you seem to think that he's
an average defender. He's an average defender, and when you're that good offensively, being an average defender is good. It's good enough.
That's not what you were saying just now, though. That's like the tone of this conversation is completely changed.
No, it hasn't. What?
Yes, yeah, because you were kind of giving him the credit of someone who could turn it on and off defensively at will.
He can.
And that he could be a stopper potentially.
He can stop guys. He knows how to play positional defense. And he's 7 feet tall. I think he can get it done.
All right, I'm gonna abandon this
What's
ship
wrong
because
with
the
that?
backpedaling that's happening
Oh
here
yeah,
is
I'm
insane.
so wrong. The 2-time MVP is that bad at basketball. Come on.
No,
now.
I'm not
Come
saying
on
basketball.
now.
Just tried to generalize.
Yeah.
That's not what he was saying. We were specifically speaking about defense.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you were saying he could turn it on.
Don't say he's bad at basketball.
Yeah.
No one's saying he's bad at basketball.
So you don't think he's an adequate defender? The metrics say that he's an average defender.
I think if you're on the court, you attack him. That doesn't say you're a good defender.
It hasn't worked out that well.
For who?
Well, where's he gotten?
They've
Where's
won
he
50
gotten?
games.
Okay,
What do you
regular
mean where have
season.
they gotten?
This is his second MVP season.
Did you see the team that he had around him when he won 48 games last year?
Yes, it was not
Did you
the team.
see the starting lineup that was with him?
I give him full credit for the ability to get that team to the promised land of the
Yeah,
playoffs.
and then the year before that, conference finals.
Did you watch Jamal Murray play?
Yeah,
Did you watch what Jamal Murray
I'm
was
not
doing
taking
in that
anything
playoffs?
away from Jamal Murray. Listen, Nikola Jokic, when he's not on the floor, they're minus 13. When he's on the floor, they're plus 13, plus 14. That's a 27-point swing. That is way
Don't
better
start
than
this
his other.
plus-minus talk.
That is
One of Sherm's favorite statistics, the plus minus.
He's on the floor, off the floor. That's not plus minus.
He's very, very, very good offensively.
There you go.
He's very,
And that's mean good
He's one of the
defensively. When you're that good offensively, that means you're good defensively.
I don't know where you're getting that math. We're going to leave you on this one, but I'm excited to see where Denver ends up this playoffs because I think this is the ultimate litmus test for him, knowing that kind of the cat's out the bag. People want to attack him defensively, and we'll see how it plays out.
and expectation. Like now, you're the leader in the Western Conference. If they're going to make a move and be that team, this would be the time.
All right. Now let's talk about the Eastern Conference and how things are shaping up. The Hawks get a very important win against the Cavs last night. The ultimate mid team as they continue to, split games through and through. I think they're 14-14 or 13-13 in the last few games. So let's talk about how this conference shakes up, and we'll start again with Randy Urban. Any hot takes here on the Eastern Conference? I'd love to hear it.
It was so interesting. I read something about Atlanta the other day, and it was they set a record for most games being within one game of 500. It was like 50 games or something like that. It was strange. And I'm like, that's what they've been all season long. And it's kind of interesting because they had that good playoff run last year or the year before, whenever that was. So I don't really trust in them. I just don't think the team trusts each other. What was the question?
What stood out to you about this Eastern Conference landscape? I mean, I'm surprised Brooklyn's been able to hold on for this
Toronto,
long.
This is a Toronto Raptors show. Toronto could easily have been in 5th place in the conference this season. They just gave away games. They gave away some of these games. So I think that's been surprising. I think the Knicks have been better than I thought. I always thought Jalen Brunson was good. I didn't think he was this good. I didn't think he could control the game this well, right? Being that size and playing with Luka, you didn't really get a chance to see him operate the way he's operating with New York. So I guess New York's a surprise.
Yeah, but we did see Jalen Brunson do it when Luka was out of the lineup.
Yeah, for sure.
And we saw glimpses of what we're seeing now. So, and Dallas would definitely could use him right now.
Oh, my gosh.
They got a point guard.
Brooklyn, to your point, though, I'm surprised they held on. I'm surprised.
Are they? Yeah. What were they? 20 games over 500 when it all kind of went to poop.
Yeah, but
so now they're.
But Jock Vaughn has done a great job
for sure
getting these guys to play at a high level.
Yeah. They didn't have KD for 3 or 4 weeks before the trade.
Yeah. And I mean, you'd think they're overachieving, but they play hard. They're coached well, and they had the buffer, the little bit of padding, and they didn't do what everybody thought they would do. So that created a lot of issues for the teams behind them.
Yeah,
but
they wouldn't be in the playoffs though if this team started the way they are currently constructed, right? They wouldn't be. They would probably be a play-in team.
They didn't start very strong either. They had a slow start to the season. They kind of caught fire a couple weeks into the season, and then things slowed down.
I mean, I think they got a good collection of players. I don't think that they're
No, the trade was. I mean, you're giving up Kevin Durant. Like,
Yeah.
You're not going to get the value of a Kevin Durant, but they got some very good pieces
For sure.
back to continue to build with.
Like you see them falling out into the play-in, right? I think
I saw them falling out when Kevin Durant got traded, and they didn't.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
It's on Miami at this point to get them into the playoffs.
They were in the play-in like 3 days ago, and then they beat Miami.
Yeah, it's on Miami right now. It
yeah.
falls on Miami's plate really to decide Brooklyn's fate.
I mean, to their credit, they did go into Miami and beat Miami on Monday night. So
okay, let's talk about the Raptors and what's left. Of course, they have an opportunity to hopefully, potentially make their way into 8th seed. Let's see how it shakes out. Final 5 games. Looking ahead, Sherm. I know you preach this to us consistently. It's about the next game ahead. You focus on what's happening right now. But us as fans, we're always looking ahead at this at the schedule.
Yeah.
What do these next 5 games represent to you, knowing that you're playing some pretty good teams, but everybody's looking to see who's resting who?
A couple of things. I look at the schedule and I say I wish those 2 Charlotte games were before the Philly game, number one. I also think that, I mean, for the Raptors, as much as they're trying to position themselves, they've got to take the next game. Like, they don't have the real luxury that we have to look ahead and say, all right, well, Philly could be tough depending on who's playing, but those 2 Charlotte games should be good, and they've got to look at Philly. They've got to continue to build. They've got to get healthy. They're going to need Gary Trent back in the lineup. Mm-hmm. So I just think that their focus is just on the next game and how to continue to improve on what they're trying to accomplish. And then at the end, the chips will fall where they may. Right now, we know at least they're going to be a playing team. So that's the positive. Can they improve their situation? Possibly. But they've got to look at Philly and say that is the game. Those 2 Charlotte games don't matter after. We got to get this Philly game. Then we'll go get the Charlotte game, and that singular focus is of utmost importance. They've got to be able to focus on game per game to get what they want to get done.
Well, and Charlotte's not. Nobody's told Charlotte that they're not good the last little while. Like they just beat Dallas 2 games in a row.
Dallas didn't have that singular focus.
Yeah, and Charlotte is playing 500 basketball over the last little stretch here. So they've got some nice talent. They've got a lot of guys playing for something. They're sneaky and scary because they're super athletic. And when you have athletic guys at the end of the season thinking like, oh man, season's done. I'm gonna give everything I have. You know what those types of games where Kai Jones is like jumping from the free throw line. But I agree with you, and you said something about Trent's got to be healthy. That's a huge key, I think, for the Philadelphia game. Because, on the road, it's so helpful if you make a three-point shot. Like, if you make a few threes, quiet the crowd, stop a run by them, push your run to boost your lead. But from 9 to 12, it makes a huge difference. So they're going to need him to be healthy. And luckily, we got a couple days before that Philadelphia game. I think traditionally the good thing is the Raptors have played in Philadelphia pretty well. But that's always been with Kyle Lowry, right? He loves going there. He loves shutting that crowd up, making the shot. I think Fred has that same type of energy. So hopefully they can parlay this 3-game winning streak into 4 and then see what happens in Charlotte.
And Philly's pretty much cemented in the 3rd hole right now,
yeah.
right? So
they were coming up to 2. And then,
so maybe this is a game that, well, Joel Embiid didn't play against Joker a couple of days ago, right? So
scared.
Is this going to... Is this going to be another game where, maybe someone else gets rest for the Philadelphia 76ers and the Raptors are able to go in there and face an undermanned team and hopefully try and get a W?
Yeah, I think that's one thing we'll be watching, of course, as this season winds down, is those who solidify their playoff seeding. What do they do in terms of resting players? Because the Raptors, they've got some big names coming up on this road trip. And then, of course, the final game at home against the Milwaukee Bucks. But we will preview that matchup with the Philadelphia 76ers tomorrow right here on Raptors Today. But that does it for myself, Sherm Hamilton. Special thanks to our special guest, the always controversial Randy Urban. And we'll see you guys next time.